Hello and welcome to Rooted and Unwithered. I'm Cole Newton, and the following is a meditation on the New City Catechism, and today we are in question 11, which asks, what does God require in the 6th, 7th, and 8th commandments? And the answer, 6th, that we do not hurt or hate or be hostile to our neighbor, but be patient and peaceful, pursuing even our enemies with love. 7th, that we abstain from sexual immorality and live purely and faithfully, whether in marriage or in single life, avoiding all impure actions, looks, words, thoughts, or desires, and whatever might lead to them. 8th, that we do not take without permission that which belongs to someone else, or withhold any good from someone we might benefit. Much as the first 3 commandments set our minds squarely upon how we ought to love God supremely with all our being, the 3 before us in this question focus on how we ought to love our neighbor as ourselves. These are also the 3 shortest commandments among the 10, being recorded for us in Exodus 20, verses 13 through 15. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal. So the answer begins by noting that the 6th commandment requires that we do not hurt or hate or even be hostile to our neighbor, but be patient and peaceful, pursuing even our enemies with love. We should notice that the Catechism goes far beyond the simple prohibition of intentionally killing another human, whether premeditated or in a moment of rage, that is also outside of the state-sanctioned executions, law enforcement, or warfare. Instead, it focuses upon how we ought to treat our neighbor, even, or perhaps especially, our enemies. This is because Jesus himself taught us the true depth of the 6th commandment, saying in Matthew 5, verses 21 through 26, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment.' But I say to you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says 'you fool' will be liable to the fire of hell. And so if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny." End quote. Thus, we need not physically shed the blood of a fellow human to disobey the 6th commandment. We only need to kill with our hearts and with our mouths. With this as the standard of obedience, it would be safe to assume that we are all murderers, harboring and speaking death upon those who bear the image of God. The 7th commandment requires that we abstain from sexual immorality and live purely and faithfully, whether in marriage or single life, avoiding all actions, looks, thoughts, and desires, and whatever might lead to them. Again, although adultery is specifically sexual immorality with anyone who is not his or her spouse, the Catechism states that this commandment requires full sexual purity from everyone, regardless of marital status. As with the 6th commandment, Jesus himself gave us this understanding, this deeper understanding, again from the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. You've heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that anyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body go into hell." As with murder, Jesus makes adultery a matter of the eyes, the mind, and the heart. He states that the lustful intent is heart-level adultery. Interestingly, the word for lustful intent could be translated as desired, longed for, or even coveted. And Jesus used the same word to describe the prodigal son's longing for the food that the pigs were eating, and to describe Lazarus's longing for the rich man's scraps. So thus, this lust, this desire is guttural. It's sensuous in the literal sense of the word. It is instinctual. It is an animalistic desire to satisfy one's appetite. This further explains why this commandment naturally follows the prohibition of murder. Just as murder is sinful because it destroys the image of God, so does adultery. Looking upon a man or a woman with lustful intent necessarily means that you are seeing them as an object to be used for your own satisfaction rather than as an image bearer of the living God to be loved and honored. Such sinful behavior, which is itself a form of idolatry, distorts who we are as well. We cannot, after all, ignore the divine insignia upon our fellow human beings without also becoming less human ourselves. A heart of lust shapes us into looking more animal than man. And is that not Darwinian notions? Is it not that Darwinian notions that have paved the way for our current sexual revolution in the first place? By classifying humans as just another animal, sex has become little more than just that, a matter of appetite. Some people are vegetarian, some are not. Likewise, some people are homosexual, polyamorous, pansexual, etc., while others are not. And what's the difference? Well, if we're nothing more than genetically lucky chimps, then there isn't a difference. Choosing not to marry your partner is perhaps no greater decision than choosing not to eat gluten. Without the Imago Dei, adultery can be no real sin. The 8th commandment requires that we do not take without permission that which belongs to someone else, nor withhold any good from someone we might benefit. The first half of this answer addresses the commandment exactly as we might think. Taking someone that belongs to someone else without their permission is the very definition of stealing. Although all creation properly belongs to God the Creator, He is gracious to give real, genuine ownership to us. Thus, as with all the commandments, it is sin because it is contrary to the nature of God. Theft is anti-God because God is the very opposite of a thief. He is a gracious giver. Now, the positive implications of the 8th commandment, of course, flow from God's graciousness and generosity. Giving is very much the antithesis of stealing. By stealing, we wrongfully take that which belongs to someone else as ours, while giving, we freely surrender what belongs to us over to someone else. The point of our work and acts of obedience is not to fight against our own sin, not merely to fight against our own sin, but to also do good to our neighbors, the image bearers around us. As God has given riches to us, we should also desire to richly give to those around us. Whenever we joyfully and freely give to others, we image God, who is free and joyful in His giving to us. Thank you so much for listening. For more resources for knowing and loving God's Word, please visit bcnewton.co. And until next time, grace and peace.